Want to watch this episode? We're on YouTube. Just search Katie Prentiss or hit the link in the show notes. I'm Katie Prentiss, and this is Sunshine Soul. I remember flying out of Portland one gray morning. It had been raining for days. That kind of heavy, wet Pacific Northwest gray that just seeps into your bones. I had the window seat on the plane like always. And as we ascended, I watched the droplets race across the glass. The clouds outside were so thick, like walls. And for a moment, it felt like the sun just didn't even exist anymore. And then we broke through. Probably my favorite moment. The clouds fell away, and there it was, blue sky, bright light, the sun just sitting there like it had been the whole time. And it hit me in that moment. The sun is always shining, even when we can't see it. Here at Sunshine Soul, we hope, we heal, and we love despite the clouds. We remember that there's light ahead. Welcome to Sunshine Soul. Let's keep looking for the light together. I've lived long enough in life to know that our chapters and our seasons change. And sometimes chapters change and we find ourselves experiencing things we never would have expected. For me, a new chapter came into my life in the form of a Facebook post. What started as a spontaneous decision turned into an amazing journey of self-discovery, self-doubt, and deep passion. Episode 3, A Second Act. So my mom died in 2016, and by 2018, I'm still unraveling from the grief of that. And I also have my oldest child graduating from high school, which is a new identity shift that a lot of people talk about. It's like the empty nester zone, which I find to be such an odd term because you're literally like just sending them to college or whatever adventure they're choosing. But it's this huge identity shift personally as a mom, but also in your family dynamics. And it can bring up a lot of different kind of grief that's less talked about. There's so much joy and excitement in that time of life, watching your child take off or explore or do new things. But there's this other side to it that just you're experiencing this loss and I guess stepping into a different way of being a parent to your child. So I was thinking through all of these things. I think losing my mom after my mom died, I really feel like that first year of grief is often just getting our bearings to even contemplate what happened, like to even understand what we just went through. And then after we process that, we really start to grieve. So I would say I was still fresh, exploring all of these things. But one of the thoughts that came to my mind often is life is short. Like I just lost my mom at a young age. I want to live. I want to feel alive. And so I was asking myself questions like, what makes me feel more alive? Like I want to do more of that. And I was sitting in my office one day at work, doing my photography business. And I thought, oh, I should make a bucket list. People make those all the time. And so I was thinking, okay, like what would I put on it? And the only thing that I could think of at that point in my life was I wanted to be on a film set. I wanted to be on a TV set and see what things were like. Now, this had come about because we had seen multiple productions filming near our house and around town. I had heard of friends being background actors on sets. And I remember just being like, how did you do that? Like, I want to do that. That's so fun. And so I put that on my bucket list, metaphorically speaking, I guess, and just kind of left it there. And I thought, okay, well, other things will come as they come and I'll add to it as I go. Fast forward there was even a production that was filming at my office. I remember looking out and seeing these huge tents being set up and started Googling and researching what was happening. And it was a show coming to the building, and it was a high school show. And I started exploring what that was to see if I could hop on. And they were looking for tons of teenage background actors. And so I immediately texted my kids that were old enough and said, would any of you want to do background acting on this TV show? And 3 of them said yes. And so I quickly signed them all up to be background on the show. And I'm like, they all got brought on. And I'm living vicariously, texting them constantly, like, how is it? What are they making you do? What is it like? We're laughing the whole time. And then almost like in the same time zone, I was on a female entrepreneur Facebook group that I'm a part of, where a lot of women help each other out and share business tips and whatnot. And very randomly, I would say now, there was a casting notice on that Facebook group. I remember it saying something like, we're looking for Caucasian female, 30s, 40s. I don't even remember much more beyond that description, because I remember seeing it and thinking, oh, that's interesting. They want to cast someone for this role in this movie. That would be so fun. I had this philosophy through life that I kind of latched onto even in my 20s, and it's never say no for someone else. I've really held that a lot through the years, because it's so easy for us to just say, oh, they're probably going to say no, or somebody's going to say no, so then we don't ask. So I thought, never say no for someone else. All it says when you read it carefully is, please message us if you're interested. And I thought, well, it doesn't say message them if you're talented. It just says message them if you're interested. So I did that. I did exactly that. Nothing more, nothing less. I wrote, hi, I'm interested. Thanks, Katie. And the next thing I knew, they were immediately responding to my message and saying, awesome, can you send us a self-tape tomorrow? And I literally was like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? I don't even know what that means. I had to Google self-tape. What is a self-tape? On Google. I found out, the simplest way to say it is just a recording of you auditioning that you put on your phone and send to them. There's obviously way more nuanced technique and whatnot to it, but I was trying to do quick research on how do I do this. They sent me a scene that they wanted me to record, and it was a scene that the character I was auditioning for would play in a conversation with a 16-year-old girl in the film. So I called my husband. I said, okay, I want to do something and I need your help. I don't want you to tell a single soul that I'm doing this, because I'm probably going to just humiliate myself. But can you come to my office after work and help me record this thing that I'm supposed to submit? And of course, Brian is the sweetest, most helpful person. So he's like, okay, whatever you're doing now, I'll help you with. So he comes to my office and reads for the 16-year-old girl in the audition. I don't want to ever see this audition tape ever. People have asked me many times, can we see it? And I'm like, I don't know where it is, and I don't want to know where it is. But I submitted it. I think it was the worst audition tape ever. And the next day, the producer messaged me and said, hi, the director was wondering if you could take a conversation with her. And again, I was like, oh, I'm in over my heads. They are going to realize that I have no idea what I'm doing. When is the gig going to be up, so to speak? And so I wrote her back and I said, sure. Is there anything I can prepare for the conversation? Because I didn't know, would I need to do something with the audition or what? She said, no, she just wants to have a conversation with you. I said, lovely. Okay. So I take the video chat the next day, hop on a call with this lovely director named Jessie Barr, and she tells me more about the story. The film is called Sophie Jones. It's a coming of age film about a girl who loses her mom to cancer when she's in high school. I'm talking with Jessie Barr, the director, and she's like, yeah, it's a very personal story. It's actually written and stars Jessica Barr, the cousin of the director with the same name. And she wrote the film based on her experience of losing her mom. I'm sitting there thinking, this is uncanny. Like, this is wild. I like have wanted to do this thing on my bucket list. And I find myself talking to a director who's written a film that's so connecting with my own personal experience of losing my mom. So of course I shared. The director told me I booked the role. I was like pinching myself, like still to that point thinking, well, this is better than what I put on my bucket list. I put just be a background actor or just see a set. I didn't know I'd actually like book a role. So I'm going to set, like a month or so later, they asked me to bring wardrobe, like it was a low budget indie film. And I get there and I thought I probably looked like a deer in headlights the whole time. I remember just getting out of my car, carrying all my stuff and thinking like, what am I about to do? Like, I have no concept of what is going to be asked of me. I had memorized the lines. I knew that much, but I didn't know much else about what to do. I get there, we do the wardrobe, we do the prep, like, checking the looks, hair and makeup, that kind of thing. Getting mic'd up for the first time, which means like, you're putting a lav attached to your clothes somewhere and a mic pack on your body. All of this, I'm just like, this little kid in a candy shop meets deer in the headlights. Like, it was the combo of those two things. I get into the scene. The director says, let's just improv our way into this. Okay. I'm still like, let's see what happens. I found myself just quietly observing and watching what other people were doing. And I thought, this is playing pretend. I've been playing pretend with my kids for years. I can do this. And so we improv'd our way in. We did the scene. I'm realizing how many different takes one scene actually can require was like mind blowing to me. The sweet lead actress and writer of the film, Jess Barr, she was like, you're doing fine. It's just pretend. She could probably tell that I was a little like new, green, fresh, overwhelmed. There are things happening like they would tell us, we're going to cheat everyone left. And I would think, what? Like, I have no idea what that means. And then I would notice everyone scooting left. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to cheat means scoot or move, like adjust things to a certain direction. So I was learning all these different things on set. But the coolest thing for me was, instead of walking away from that thinking, wow, I just had the coolest bucket list item, I think I walked away feeling like a huge door had been opened in my life. I had spent, I don't know, at least 14 years as a solo entrepreneur at this point in my life. I've been behind the camera, paying attention to light, paying attention to people's emotions, interactions, the story, so to speak, that they were telling in front of me. And I always, in those years, craved community in my creative work. I never knew how to get it. I wanted somebody else to care about what I was working on. I wanted somebody else to like talk with about what I was creating. It's like that collaborative effort was so beautiful. And I found that on set. I remember thinking, watching the cameras and the angles and watching the lighting and how they were doing that and kind of knowing the positioning and the framing and understanding from a behind the camera perspective. But then I was also watching from like just a story and like thinking about, I get to tell this story as one person, as one tiny sliver of this whole part. We're all creating this picture together. And it was so profound that I knew I had to keep going. At that point in my life, I thought, well, I got away with it once. I wonder if I could get away with it again. I literally felt like I was tricking people. which is kind of weird, but it's true. I thought I'm just like getting away with something here. So I found my first casting breakdown on a Facebook group, but I thought maybe there's more. And I started searching Facebook and found that there was a lot of different groups for actors and casting notifications and stuff like that. Joined all of those. Anytime I would see any role remotely to my type, I would submit. I was cracking up. Here I was, a woman with a full business, a full family, a full life, and I'm like raising my hand as eagerly as possible to jump onto a free production or a college film, student-run film, or anything I could get my hands on, because I thought, I want to do more of this. I want to see if I can. Quickly, I realized, training is the way to go. I should join an acting class. I started looking around for different acting classes, and I finally landed on one that I'm so happy I did. I joined Scott Rogers Studios, and I will never forget how terrified and sweaty I was on that first day of walking into that class. I remember being terrified. I had no concept what to even expect once I got in there. I didn't feel like I belonged. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? But I went, and I remember Scott pulling me aside when I first got to my first class, and he said, so tell me what brings you to class? Like, were you a theater major in college? And I was like, no. And he said, oh, have you done community theater? No. Oh, were you a child actor? No. And he was saying that, like, typically a lot of people will like have some sort of experience with acting and then come back into it like in midlife or something to see how it goes. And I said, no, actually what happened for me is that I auditioned for a role on a feature film and I booked it, and now I want to do more. And he just, he looked at me and he was like, whoa. You might not want to spread that story like super broadly, because that does not happen to people. There's going to be some jealous folks. He basically said there's a lot of people out there that spend a lot of years hoping for that very thing. And I realized, wow, what a gift I had been given by getting to participate in this film. That, by the way, I never even said, it's called Sophie Jones, and it got distribution. You can watch it anywhere, and it's a really beautiful film. So the fact that my very first role that I ever booked was on like a beautiful project that is out in the world is just like uncanny. But I get to class, and I remember thinking, I'm going to get here and I'm going to find out if I'm good or bad, if I have talent or not. I want to know. I want to get here. I don't want to waste time. Like I said, I have a full life. I have a lot going on. I remember thinking, I just want my coach to tell me up or down, thumbs up or thumbs down, talent or no, good or bad. I didn't have ego involved in it. I just wanted to know whether I should continue to pursue this. And it didn't take long for me to realize that that's not what I was going to get there. Thank God I didn't, because so many times people will give those kinds of opinions to people who are attempting something or risking something or taking a leap, and somebody will have their very subjective opinion that that person's not talented or that they shouldn't do what they're trying to do. And I think about acting a lot with this and how subjective it is. We could all name one actor and have a huge variety of opinions about whether we like that actor or not, or how we view their talent, or whether we like to watch their films or not. It's subjective. I also talked with one of my classmates, and I said, I just want to know if I'm talented or not. And they very wisely said to me, I don't really believe in that. I believe that there's hard work and there's a desire to do something, or there's not. And with that response to my question, I had to really go home. I remember leaving and thinking, oh, I have to choose whether I want to pursue this. Nobody is going to give me a stamp of approval. I have to decide if this endeavor is something I want to spend time in my life doing. And the answer was yes. I would have much rather had been told that I have talent and I could feel really proud and like move forward with that stamp of approval, that external validation. But what I had to do instead was find my own internal validation and my own reason why I wanted to do it. I had come from a world where everything felt black and white, good or bad. I had spent so much of my time evaluating and judging and fearing being judged. And here I was endeavoring into this art form that everybody sits on their sofa and judges. So when I first started, it was challenging. I had a lot of interesting response to me trying to do this. I remember somebody saying, "Oh, you're acting? Oh, I could never be fake." And I remember thinking, what? Fake? Like, it feels so real to me. I feel like the goal in acting is to be as completely honest in imaginary circumstances as we can. What about that is fake? And then I thought, if anyone is fake, it's all the rest of us moving about in our lives and in this world, projecting images onto each other, pretending we don't struggle with things that we do, denying feelings that we have. I found a lot of people giving interesting responses to my endeavors. I also found that there was a lot of denial and suppression in my own life. I think about like growing up as a little people pleaser, trying to be nice and pretty and smile. Those are the things that acting has chiseled away in my life. I remember doing a scene in one of my first classes, and my coach asked me, like, what were you feeling in this scene? And I said, "Oh, anger." And he was like, "Oh, interesting," because I didn't see anger. I saw crying and I saw sadness, but I didn't feel anger. I didn't see anger. And I, again, was reflecting upon that, and I thought, oh, I have really spent a lot of my life fearing anger and suppressing the expression of this emotion in my own life. Of course, it comes out in tears because I don't give voice to it half of the time. I deny its existence half of the time. I've spent a lot of my years saying, "Oh, I don't really get angry," which is hilarious. Now, my husband would laugh too. Another coach that I had the privilege of working with, I was performing this gritty, more raw, emotional scene. And she said, "I feel like that's a Disney princess version of this character." And I just felt gut punched. I was like, what? No, I'm not that. Like, I don't want to be a Disney princess version of anything. What? But it was such a good moment for me to reflect on how I have survived in this world, how I've moved about. And it has been, smiling and being nice and making other people feel good about themselves and playing small and denying myself. Woo, these were some big things being cracked open. My most recent coach, who I adore to the moon and back, Ben Mathis from Crash Acting, asked me one time in class, "Do you experience a lot of denial?" And I was like, I laugh now so much about this question because I think I had a knee-jerk response to it, which to me was very indicative of denial, because I was like, oh no. And I look back and I think, what? Like, probably only a person in denial would immediately snap back and say that they don't live in denial. Oh, wow. Having these hard questions. We perform a scene, we're playing a character, but it really is a window into our own soul. It really is a window into the way we operate and what we allow and where we have things blocked and hidden and held. Because, and a lot of that is survival. A lot of that is the way we have to move around the world, or the way we have learned to adjust and be safe in this world and in our relationships. But acting allows us to crack that wide open and experience a truer essence of an emotion that maybe we don't allow in our real life. And it's been so profound for me, such a privilege and a joy to dig deeper in my own humanity through this craft and this art form. It's not always easy hearing these things, getting this feedback, seeing these things about ourselves. It's not easy feeling blocked or, prevented from the best expression of the performance lives inside of you. But it's good human work that I feel so thankful to do. The other thing that I found in this journey of acting was I was encouraged by, once again, my first acting coach, Scott, he would tell us, you might want to consider creating your own work, making a short film, making a feature film, create roles for yourself that you want to play. And I remember thinking, like, there's the ambitious entrepreneur side of me that started in this industry. And I thought, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to work it up. I'm going to make this business happen for myself. I know how to do this from my own experience with photography. Surely I can do this with acting too. But it didn't take very long to realize, wow, there are just a few white women in middle life that want to act, if you can imagine. Just a few of us. And guess what? A lot of women my age that are acting have been acting for their whole life. They have a huge resume. They have experience that they've gotten to do. They've gotten roles. They've had time that I didn't have. I don't believe that you're ever too late or too old. I don't believe that. But I felt this fire in me of I have to work harder and faster than everyone else. That's how I felt. Whether that's true or not is probably just a reflective of my ambition. I thought I have to work faster and harder and do more than everyone else because I have the energy and the passion and the desire of a 20-year-old, but I am not 20 anymore. So when he said create your own work, I latched onto that idea. I made my first film in 2020. And I remember thinking, this is going to be hard and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know anything about anything. So the learning curve is through the roof. Like everything about this, I have to learn from scratch. Even writing my first script, I wrote my script on a Google Doc. I remember sharing it with some folks and saying, like, can you just look at this and tell me if it has any merit whatsoever? And people connected to it, even in its raw, crazy form. So I thought what I would do is I would try to make my first film and I would write about something that I really, really cared about. Because if I pick something I really care about, it will help me. It will help motivate me to actually go through all these steps that are going to be so challenging. So I thought I will write about those early experiences with my mom when she was first showing signs of dementia, but we had no idea what it was going to be like. I wrote a film called Porches about that experience. But we did it during COVID. And so I centered it on a relationship between two women who were actually next door neighbors. And I showed that neighborly relationship of relying on each other. And it's a short film and it's just to tease out, what do we do when we see someone that we love being in some sort of mental decline or confusion? What do we do? And it explores that feeling. Well, that film got some really special buzz. And I think moving through that process made me think, oh, I'd like to do this some more too. I often say that making a film is a lot like having a child where you create something that's super precious to you. You wonder all the time why in the hell you're trying to do this because it's so hard. And then you get that baby out into the world and you're like, oh, they're so sweet. And you have this sort of like amnesia about how hard it was. And so you think maybe we'll do it again. That's a lot like filmmaking. But we made Front Porches. It won a lot of awards. It touched a lot of nerves. I really believe that it gave a lot of people some hope and feeling less alone. Then I made a short mini web series called Gamer that was more for me to explore different styles of filmmaking. I wanted to lean into comedy and have something light and fun compared to what I had earlier made. I really wanted to explore the idea of how our perspective in life is really under our own control. we are able to control our perspective. We can't control our circumstances, but we can control how we respond to them and how we perceive them. And now I'm making my first feature film called Wake Up, Maggie. And it's this full circle moment of me coming back to the story of Front Porches, but then taking it even deeper into a feature film. This one is exploring a sister relationship. I call it a coming of middle age film. So I think back to being on Sophie Jones and getting to be my first film of coming of age film. And I'm like, now we're going to go coming of middle age, because there's not enough films that explore this. I feel like, especially as women, we have almost like a second puberty that we go through, and we need to show this time in life because it's just as pivotal for us as often the first time is. And I call it a love letter to caregivers because of my journey in caregiving with my mom. And it definitely is going to have some social impact and raise some awareness around the dementia that my mom was diagnosed with. Through acting, I've learned that when I feel vulnerable, when I feel scared of a risk I'm about to take, I also feel more alive. And I want to live in such a way that I feel alive. I want my nervous system to be activated in a good way. I want to explore this depth of the human experience that we all have. And I've learned that I can let go of my own judgment and fear and being risk averse, and move into what I love without worrying about what everybody thinks. To learn more about Wake Up Maggie, visit wakeupmaggiemovie.com. This episode was brought to you by yours truly, Katie Prentiss. Produced and edited by the fabulous Lindsay Gensel. Our incredible Sunshine Soul theme music was created by the one and only Adam Sweeney. For more resources and transcripts, visit katieprentiss.com. That's Katie, Katie, Prentiss, Prentiss.com.